Hi everyone, Scott Schneider here on Stereo Niche. You say I didn't say niche that time. Some folks prefer niche. I like niche, but I'm fine either way. Hey, this week, not quite a review of a specific piece of gear, but it's my review of the trip I took to Tampa, St. Pete recently. And we went down to the Clearwater Beach actually to go see the annual sand sculpture event, or it's a festival that they have each year in the spring. So while we were there, it just so happened that the theme this year was decades and doing some sculpture of significant social events or things that happened in that decade. Well, of course, a lot of that that happens in those decades are around music. So there were a lot of sculpture that were music oriented. So I thought I would take those clips and put them together for you to check them out. So after that, if you're also down in that area, if you ever go down there, Banana Records. Banana Records is located in the St. Pete, Florida area, and it has, I think, the largest collection of records in the United States. They have a few locations. They have 3 locations. 2 are right next to each other. One of those happens to be a location that houses a lot of vintage audio gear. So I've decided to go through and record what I could find there and kind of give you guys an overview of what they have. So that's what's coming up. Check it out. Well, let's take a look at Banana Records audio equipment. This is across the street from the 16th Street location. So it's just a garage door that's opened, and once you walk inside, you see shelf or row after row. You come in and take a right, and on the right side is where you're going to see the gear. So lots of rows. It's kind of starts here, and then there's this wall of turntables that that's behind you as you walk in, and then you take a few steps more, and you turn to the left, and you can go all the way back to the end of the building there, and you see all the rows on the right. They're almost all filled with audio gear, but certainly on the left they go all the way down. This turntable was just at the entrance. It's an Optonica with a granite top, which I've never seen before. Optonica was a high-end brand of Sharp, but a unique table, not one I've ever seen. By the way, none of their tables that are here come with head shells or a stylus cartridge, so you have to go across the street and find those. But anyway, cool nonetheless. Not seen one of those. This is a Technics SL 1200. It's got some age on it, but unfortunately there's an older table sitting on top. These were some nice quad units from Pioneer. and these are on that first row that you come into. Two of them. Not ever seen these particular units before. Before I saw them here at the at this location. So kind of cool. Came down a little bit more. That is a Dynaco tube amp in great shape. That's a Dynaco preamp there. And what's sitting on top of a Toshiba preamp, which I was very interested in, but it was missing a knob and it wasn't priced, of course. So I didn't know, couldn't buy it because it didn't have a price. I found this turntable. Never seen this before. An Ariston Audio. Looks kind of exotic. It was just sitting on a lower shelf. I pulled it out and set it up here just to get some video of it. But it looks like it, you know, just potentially needs some cleanup, but kind of an exotic looking table nonetheless. But if anyone knows about this table, you know, be interested to make some comments on this one. Now this is that row again of turntables, but underneath here, buried behind everything that's sitting on the floor, those are some Cabas speakers back there, which I've never heard any myself. I've only read about them. I couldn't get the grills off because there were too much stuff in front of them, but there's, you know, all I know about them is they make some great speakers. But that was kind of cool to see those sitting back there. Now sitting right in front of it is a Pioneer SX950, and it's got a price, but you know, it's just sitting here on top of a bunch of other stuff, you know, on the floor here. There's that wall of turntables. You'd need a ladder to get up there, but unless it has a price on it, that orange price, then you know, you'll have to see about getting a price for it. And they actually want to go through, test it, and then you know, put a price on it after that. Lots of different things sitting around. That looks like a Pioneer 99 or an 88. This section was taped off, so all I could do was sort of, you know, poke the camera in and take a look around. A lot of cool stuff sitting back here. A lot more turntables, you know, in various stages of repair. Some were priced. Unfortunately, again, you couldn't get back this way. This is the other side. Pioneer reel-to-reel, some 901s. There's a B&O, looks like a realistic turntable there, and a Technics, maybe sitting on top of another realistic perhaps. But lots of gear stacked up, you know, in various places. Looks like a Pioneer receiver there. Back to the main row. This is a set of JBL speakers. I thought those were Klipsch at first. I haven't seen that model. A later set of Advents. Looks like a 5002 perhaps. And then a nice Macintosh C28 preamp. He's got some bubbling there on the faceplate. And there's some sort of receiver buried down there. I think it was Panasonic. And then there's an all-in-one just sitting up here on the shelf. Going over a little more, another Macintosh unit, the MPI 4, which I'm not familiar with. I've never seen this unit before. Several plinths up top on the top row. Looks like a lot of the United Audio dual type plinths there. Also a lot of center channel speakers. That's one, but there's a lot more there. The big MC2300 from Macintosh. That unit's kind of indestructible. This is a Sansui 5000. Doesn't have a price. It probably wasn't tested. It's kind of a cool TIAC receiver here. I've not seen this unit before. So I'm not familiar with it, but it's really cool looking. It would be nice to see it lit up. Looks like it has a sort of a fluoroscan face there. Another Macintosh unit. This is a tuner MR73. Some DQ10s. Oh, before you get there, there's another Macintosh amp that's kind of almost sitting on the floor. This one doesn't have a cabinet. Looks like it's in pretty good shape though. Here's those DQ10s. Also, looked to be in pretty good shape. They need a bit of cleaning up, but otherwise, they look like they were in pretty fairly well kept. Got 695 on those. Another section of turntables. Most of these were at least priced. Many of these Pioneer Technics. Most of these. I think there's an AR above this one. I thought a couple of ARs in there. Hopefully find the head shell for that though. PL7 Pioneer. These have a nice glass wood cabinet or cover that you don't don't see that on average. Looks just overly built. Pretty cool. Another Technics turntable. Nice dent there in the front of it, unfortunately. United Audio base, so there's a dual turntable there. This Pioneer, I've seen better days on the plinth anyway. It looks like it could use a vinyl wrap or some new veneer. Another United Audio dual turntable. Lots of different turntables here. If you're in search of a turntable, this is the place to go. Predominantly Technics. Technics made more models than anyone else, so they've got quite a few. SLD2 there. Interestingly, I not heard of this unit before until just recently when I did the review of the Reverb, and someone mentioned this particular receiver, and then I got to see it, an SX9000. I'd never heard of this. I probably heard of it, I just never saw pictures or realized that it had a reverb in it, so I was kind of surprised I saw one here. And Sensui 8080 is a great receiver. This is a very nice series from Pioneer. These integrated amps, I think they have a very classic look. Like some of the Sensui amps, they just sort of seem a little bit ageless, and that's from that series. There's a Marantz set here that looks like they bought together. The tuner here, 2120, and the preamp here, 3250B, and then lastly the amplifier, 1060. Of course, could be random, but seems like it was brought in here at the same time. Oh, this Akai, reel to reel, the Akai 77. Seemed like it was in the wrong place, but it was sitting in this section nonetheless. The Sensui 881. These are excellent receivers. If you find one, I recommend it. They're pretty sweet sounding. Don't put out a lot of power, but get. All right, this is the Philips receiver. These are a really cool series. Philips, not kind of an under the radar brand, but this black with white lettering, really cool. And on the floor here are some Citation 12 power amps from Harman Kardon, a set of these. Those are nice amps. Hate to see them on the floor. Here's some Harman Kardon again, 330C. And then on top of that, Citation 11 preamp. Nice little section of Harman Kardon, but, they need to get off the floor. Now the reverb amp receiver from Pioneer. Can't believe I saw two of these. Hadn't seen them before, and here they are. This is a Toshiba receiver. You don't see Toshiba very often. Kind of, really cool to see one of these. And then at the top, another Harman Kardon. This is the 930. Really highly regarded receiver. This is an end cap. They have some, on the ends of each row, they had some nice stuff. This is a Pioneer, the reel to reel. And on top, you may not have seen that. Heathkit made a some great units for a while. This is an AP 1800 preamp, a Nakamichi cassette deck, the MR2. Coming on down, the SAE amplifier. SAE made some fantastic gear. There's an Accurus. Accurus was a pretty high-end brand. Hafler, pretty well known. That one looks like it needs a little bit of paint, but pretty much you can rebuild any Hafler. Several Adcom units. Looks like they had pretty much the set of them here. Also something from Velodyne. Another Adcom unit. Looks like a tuner here, maybe a tuner preamp. It's a nice Yamaha receiver there, or integrated amp. The Mac 1700 receiver, and the ever indestructible Crown DC 300. This thin line Technics series, I actually have these units. Not sure, I think they're from the early mid 80s time frame. That set of Technics series, that's the preamp. Highly regarded. That one looks like it needs a good cleaning though. Another Citation 12, almost sitting on the floor, sitting on top of a nice looking SAE component there. These are some Lin speakers. I didn't get the model on these though. They were in pretty nice condition. It's another Pioneer reel to reel. And these are the Nitty Gritty record cleaners. Seems to be a bit of a section of them here, but if you're looking for a nitty gritty, they've got them at Banana Records. I saw this, didn't see it at first. I had to come back. A Fisher monoblock. It's the 30A. Only one of them, but it was in very nice shape. May or may not be rebuilt, but probably just needs a good recap. Another end cap here. A couple of tuners. This is a very nice TU717 from Sansui, and the Citation 14 tuner. Looking for $399 for that one, and $250 on the Sansui. It's a kind of a cool unit, a very early console. So when you open it up here, it's got a, looks like the tuner radio, and then a little bit of a surprise on the other side. A television. Can't imagine how close you had to be to see what was going on there, huh? But I'm sure this was considered very high-end in its day. Looks to be in really nice shape, too. Some nice integrated amps sitting up here. Pretty nice one from Pioneer. It's like a 9500. There's a 6500, and then a Carver preamp sitting on top. Carver, a lot of big fans for Carver. Old Bob was probably the most creative engineer out there. Early or a late Denon turntable, another Pioneer. This is one of my favorite series from Pioneer. I love those wood caps on the ends there. An AccuPhase. Oh man, AccuPhase. Can't talk about anything more high end than that. There's anything with AccuPhase name on it's pretty expensive. $24.50 for that unit. Well, speaking of high end, I'm not familiar with BTL, but if these were $10,000 each when they came out, they're pretty pricey. It's later gear that I'm not familiar with, but it's got some pretty big prices on there. These cassette decks from Pioneer, they're just classic looking. I mean, even if you don't use the thing, it just looks cool sitting there. Almost the same for SAE. That's a cassette deck, and kind of, SAE just had a run that were just really interesting units. Everything they made at that time frame was cool. Another one of those Pioneer cassette decks. It's almost like having a reel-to-reel up there. It just looks cool. You don't have to actually use it, but if you got one, it just makes you look like a real audiophile. A Marantz receiver, 2230, nice cabinet on it. Some ADS speakers. Now these are this this sort of square, I don't know what you call that edge there, but these had the metal grills. Unfortunately, it's very rare to find them without any dents. These were very well dented. Not sure how, if you can find maybe an auto parts shop that can bend those things back out, but these are fantastic speakers. ADS, almost all of them I think are just very, very good speakers. I'm going to start have a review of them pretty soon, but really nice. These are Phase Tech speakers. They're out of Jacksonville, Florida. I think they ship the warehouse is actually in Orange Park, but Phase Tech, I'm not sure where they are today, but pretty well known. They had some great speakers, I think mainly from the 80s and 90s. Nice cabinets on their speakers as well. And sitting down here on this section of CD players and VHS was on the floor almost, this 2285B from Marantz. Looks like it needs a little bit of a cleaning, but otherwise, you know, look like it's in pretty good shape. Okay, so I took this video here of these speakers because I wanted to document of what I refer to sometimes as a very, let's say, less appealing visually speaker. I think these are a coral, but when I say that a speaker like gets a 10 or 11, or you know, which is considered kind of a low end for my scale, but it looks, you know, bland, it's because I'm referencing that they don't look what I would say is hideous as these. This looks a bit medieval and, you know, is pretty low on the scale. I'd give these like a 1 or a 2. And so anything after that is really looking good. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video. The sand sculpturing, pretty impressive, huh? The artist, I believe they change them out or, you know, invite different artists from around the world annually to that event. And they're all impressive. Every sand sculpture I saw was pretty incredible. What they can do with you know, sand and clay media, it's amazing, to be honest. Banana Records, you know, that was an interesting experience. Now, I will say before I get to the summary of where I was, across the street where the records are, they do have some more retail experience set up there, where they do have some very nicely, look like they've gone through these turntables. They're set up for sale over there, and you can try them out and, you know, demo them in real time. So that's more of a retail experience. Where I was located is the what I'll call the overflow area, but it's pretty clear that it's more overflowing than it should be. There were, you know, very nice high-end amps, receivers, sitting on almost on the floor with, you know, inexpensive VCRs sitting on the shelf. So, and there's also sections where there are, you know, new records, not new, but they purchase large quantities of other records and they're put in front of the gear and you can't get to it anymore. So there needs to be like a cleanup, if you will, a re-inventory there to sort of make everything accessible. And I think if they do that, they can clear a lot more stuff out, to be honest. There's just sections now where things have fallen into the aisles and they've taped them off. You can't get to them anymore. So, you know, I hope that they get some, you know, time to really work on that. If they do that, then I think it's even a better experience. But I had fun nonetheless. The people there are fantastic. Everyone I talked to was wonderful, very nice people. I have, you know, no negative things to say about being there. The pricing, though, that was the one thing. If it didn't have a price on it, there was no way to buy it because you know, the main owner was not there and he couldn't price it, so therefore you couldn't buy it. So if you had traveled, you know, a long way, found something, you were out of luck. So that was disappointing. Well, that's it for this segment. I'm working on several new videos coming up soon. If you want to make sure you don't miss those, of course, hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.